Welcome, good morning. So this is basically just a test for some things. I am now allowed to use some music in my streams. In this case it's just going to be kind of piano, kind of relaxing vibe music. Other stuff I want to try as well. Also found a way to still use my other phone as a portable camera to show, maybe in the future, show my studio while, you know, having this camera still be in its place. Just checking everything working here. Hey watercolorist, welcome again, and I hope you have a good day at work. I'm just going to do a little bit of production. I need to find a spot for this one. So I'm going to use the small one today. Kind of have a little bit more cheerful music. Still piano maybe, but I don't have a new ring, no. No. Let's keep this quiet though. It's already there, isn't it? Work for 1 hour. Today I'm topping off some pens of YInMn Blue. Let me see if I can get this up a little bit. There we go. It's a lovely blue. If you find the music annoying, just let me know. I can turn it off as well, but there's been some times, you know, where I'm just reading the chat and or you know, times like this when I'm actually just working and don't focus on the chat too much. No offense. That I just want to turn on some music, at least some kind of background noise, since you guys over there hear me, but I hear me as well. For me, sometimes that gets a little bit boring, or gets a bit old to just keep hearing yourself and just, you know, talk to text basically, which I get since it's a live stream. It's not a conference call. It's a music service that has no like it's all licensed within this website, so I can use it without any copyright issues, hopefully. So I'm going to check that out. Also, a watercolorist, if you do have the time to let me know one thing, if you can still hear me talking if I switch to that camera, because you know, this is my phone. As I said, I found a way to use two phones as webcams alongside all the other webcams that I have here. So if this is working still, and you know, you see me doing this or looking around to my pigments and just, you know, showing stuff, If that's working, that is great. Then it is working. Very pleased with that. Thanks. There was the possibility to let you hear the music a little bit clearer. I'm just now running it on my laptop. I can also put it in stream. Thing is, I wouldn't be able to hear it myself then, which would be rather annoying. Then you had background music and I didn't, which kind of was the point of having music in the background. Yeah, I know. But right now you hear the music through the microphones. You know, you hear the same music as I hear it. Only you hear it through the microphones. At the same time as my voice. I can also just twitch the sound so you can actually hear the source of the music, so the audio quality will be better. You have the exact same audio quality as I would have, only then I need to put in headphones to be able to hear it, otherwise you would get an echo. Well, yeah, stuff. No, it's actually what is it? This was from Outland. I'm using audio website that you need to, well, you need to pay a subscription to use this music, the copyright-free music to use under YouTube videos or during a stream. I've been making some calls last week, yesterday actually, to be able to listen to music which I usually listen to while not streaming, but you need licenses for that, which are very expensive, and that's just not worth it at all, since you need a license for each separate number. And if I make a live stream like I did last Wednesday, no, it wasn't last Wednesday, was it? My last live, I don't know when it was. That lasted 3 hours. And if you need a license for every single number you want to play, you need a lot of licenses, and that's almost unaffordable for me. Almost, no, that's I just couldn't afford that. So this is ideal. I can use this music under my videos as well without any issues. And there's like songs with text and, you know, rock, pop, indie stuff as well. Every genre. You know, having someone sing when I'm going to talk about pigments or reacting on you. Exactly, that would... A song that's actually, you know, by an artist who's singing would be too much of a distraction. Maybe that will be possible if I need to wear a mask for certain pigments. It is absolutely secondary, but I do like to have it as an option. So I'm quite happy to have found a solution for that. Still need to clean this one. So for those of you who are viewing, feel free to join the chat if you want to. If you don't want to, just drop a like if you like pigments, paint making and things like that. Yeah, no, there wasn't a hair, I don't know what it was. I think it was a piece of fabric. I have no idea where that came from. Don't have a lot of hair to actually be falling off there, so. Why is this so hard? It probably was, like I have, usually I have these cotton rags that I use for cleaning, but in my previous paint I had another, it was like an old towel sort of stuff, but it was a different fabric than this is. It probably came from that. I just washed all my cloths as well, so it was an old one that I haven't used in a long time, so it was probably just on my slab already from cleaning my previous batch of paint that I did. This is separate in the house, so yeah, a cat, but this is separate from the house. There's no cats here anymore. Like, they weren't really on desk or anything, but you know, they can be flying around. It does happen, you know, when you have this piece of fluff and there's like cat hair, maybe, but it's not. Yeah, it's not an issue with me. Like, I'm not like covered in animal fur or anything like that. Never have been. But you know, could be flying around or something. But this, like I said, new studio is just a separate space. And there's no cats allowed in here, or any other creatures. I do count the very big spiders as pets. And hopefully that didn't detract some of them. But I found 2 giant spiders last week. They were enormous. Scared the hell out of me. It's not that I'm really afraid of spiders, but these are just big enough to mistake them for somebody standing in your room. That was literally, it was like 2 inches, 5 centimeters next to my slab. And I was moving some pens around. There's like dry out pens and the things I have standing there. And I was moving some stuff. I thought, what is that? And I'm taking my hand away, and like a spider this big. Look, I don't like that. So maybe it was a hair from that spider. Could be possible. Looking at the size of that thing, could have been from the spider. Cleaning my Hagman gauge, by the way, for if you're wondering what I'm doing. But I just finished making a new batch of PY110 since my last batch was contaminated. Did not yet get a reply from the manufacturer. So if you have ordered PY110, if you're looking back to this, or if you're just secretly joining us without joining the chat, and if you have ordered PY110 as a pigment, working very hard to make it on time. But I really don't know what happened with that pigment, or what they did with it. But PY 110 is quite a stubborn pigment, so it's all clean now. What is it? What is this text? I said no text in this playlist. Similar in hue. Well, it comes quite close. It has less of a difference in its mask tone and wash, whereas PY 153 is quite orange in its mask tone, and you can make a very light, vibrant yellow. That's perfect. In its wash. You can do that with PY 110, but it's more obvious in 153. That is beautiful. The color and the result, but also, you know, mostly the color. Started talking to those mystery guests we had, and I think I scared them. So there is, like in this case, I can take you with this piece of, oh, that was just reflection. This part of the process, I do see an air bubble in this one. Right over there. I think it's a superficial one, but with the back of a measuring spoon, yeah, that was just on the surface. With the back of a measuring spoon, I'm just cracking the fully dry paint. In this case, that was an air bubble. This was the first layer. So if I see those, I'm going to do it with every pen that I have. Just look at that. That was an air bubble as well. Also the first layer. So usually this happens with the first layers. I don't know why. I already did crack this. It was just the top surface. I'm just poking everywhere with pens to see if anything cracks, if there's any, like that, air bubbles. If I see an air bubble in a batch, I'm going to do that with every pen I need to fill. Especially with heavy pigments like, that was just small, with heavy pigments like this. Heavy pigments, expensive pigments like this, I don't know where that heavy came from. I think it's important with every paint that I check. I do like as much checking as possible, but sometimes you just miss it. That's part of it as well, I think. But if I do notice a bubble in a batch, as you can see here, I'm not making a lot of these. I am starting some new pens though, and some dots. Since it's quite an expensive paint, quite an expensive pigment. I can use one with a crack in it as well. Let me just use a smooth one. I don't want to get any water trapped in there. This has been drying for a few weeks. I have some pens ready, but I didn't make enough last time, so these are kind of the leftovers that needed to be topped off or refilled with another layer. That didn't make the cut last time. But I'm going to show you, since that's a question I get a lot with YInMn, I'm going to show you how this re-wets when it's rock solid. You just heard me cracking the bubbles, so you probably know that this is a very, very dried, dehydrated paint. I'm just going to show you how it re-wets. That's the color. That's the question I get most with YInMn, since apparently there are some pens or brands, I'm not quite sure which ones, that are rock solid and almost impossible to re-wet after a while. And like I said, this has been, I think, more than a few weeks, by the way, since the other pens. This is probably a couple of months. These little leftover YInMn pens I have over here. Since the other pens are already finished. And I did those, I think, 6 weeks ago. So this is definitely a couple of months. So very dry paint. This sounds happy. Well, hopefully the result is going to be happy as well. Let me have a look where I can still make a swatch. I have a booklet over here. So, just to show you, this is completely dry. There's no water here. You can even hear it crack. That's how dry the paint is. I'm going to spray some water on the side, so it's not going to be water mixed with paint. So I'm just going to really show you how it re-wets. If this fills, I feel miserably here. So this is a dry and clean brush as well. Now it is a wet brush. A dry pen. Just loading some pigment. And there we go. Oh, okay, I passed the test. I know this from my YInMn. It re-wets beautifully. So I've heard some things that people, you know, feel welcome. That people really have an issue with older YInMn pens that just won't re-wet. This is just YInMn re-wetting live for you here. The water is kind of being absorbed here by the dry paint, so I'm just going to top this off. There we go. So yeah, a very re-wettable blue. No issues there. We only have quarter pens still. We really only have quarter pens of YInMn? Really? Finished all the half pens last time then. I thought I had some half pens left as well. Thanks for joining. Even though briefly, really appreciate it. So, quarter pens it is. Just going to do some dots as well. Let me first do the dots. Oh, put my finger in that one. If you're wondering about the dot, let me have a look. Let me quickly check if I can With the music though, I really need to kind of see, look up more music and add it to a playlist. Let's have a look. I really want you to be able to see this from up close. There you go. That's better. Maybe even more. Is this going to blow up on the screen here? Hopefully not. Oh yes, it is. Okay, then I need to change that. But I will do that later. There's no hurry there. We will do it lossless. There we go. Maybe not. Okay. We'll just keep it like this. Trying to improve the stream, just little steps, not changing too much. I don't want to mess with what works, but you know, there's a close-up cam for a reason, and I want it to be a little bit closer to show you my amazing dot pen designs. As humble as I am. Tiny air bubbles. I'm going to tap them when I'm all finished with everything again, if I see anything coming to the surface. 6 people watching already. Leave a hi in the chat if you will. Otherwise, if you like watercolor paints being made, pigments, or watercolor paints in general, or paints in general even, you can give this stream a like if you will. That is a tiny layer, but it's a layer nonetheless. It's a bit disappointing a watercolorist, since I'm at work as well, and I'm just, you know, I'm just reacting to people, replying. Just joking. Just joking. With this pigment, because it is a very opaque pigment, it looks like there's a lot of paint still left on the slab, which it, well, really isn't. I've tried this specifically with YInMn before, so you know I can get as much as this off, but as soon as I re-wet it, it's just a spritz of paint or of water on the slab and try to collect more paint off my slab. What happens with that paint, and I've done it in a very thin layer in a separate pan, what happens is it kind of separates from the binder. You get a, instead of a beautiful looking, like good looking pan, you get a very shiny layer of binding floating on the top, of binder floating on the top, and it'll just, the pigment with a little bit of binder sinking to the bottom, even with a tiny layer. since it's quite a heavy, heavily granulating but heavy pigment, it just kind of loses the dispersion that I just made while mulling. So I'm not doing that. I tried it. Since it's a very expensive pigment, I thought, you know, maybe it's worth it, but it's just a very opaque pigment and it looks like there's a lot of paint on here. If there were to be someone next to me making a painting, wanting to use YInMn Blue as a paint, this would have been perfectly usable paint if you loaded up your brush and directly put it on paper. It isn't. There is no one here painting, no one here at all even. So this is just going to be thrown away. This is a piece of waste material that you need to keep in mind while making paint. If you make paint for yourself, for paintings you make, this is, you know, this slab could be used as a blue palette, for instance. If you are going to make more paint after, you know, this batch, as I am, you want to throw this away. This is just not really useful anymore for you. So I'm just literally trying to clean my brush a little bit. You know, that's okay. And I can re-wet whatever's on here. And show you that the old paint that I made and the paint, the old paint that was dried in the pen and the new paint that I made look exactly the same. We're just letting this dry. It has a slight drying shift. It dries a little bit less, the drying shift makes it less vibrant, but a little bit to the cool side. So wet, it looks a little bit more red than when it's dry. Doesn't have much of a drying shift, but it's quite noticeable in this one as well, where it was very like the deep blue that you just saw here on my slab, like you see here in the pens, that kind of have just disappeared with this swipe that just dried. So yeah. Dampen the paint with a mist of water. Well, you know, I'm here, you're here. This is literally in front of me, so I can try it. But that's basically what I've done last time. So as soon as I can collect it, it needs enough water for it to already kind of go separate from each other, which is quite weird. Yeah, you know, you're welcome to visit and you know, use this paint, but that's going to be within like 5 minutes from now, so I'm not quite sure you're going to make that. Going to put this here. That's quite a full one. Has a nice top on it. When I started my business, even I think, but especially when I started YouTube, there's always kind of the question: what does your dream audience look like? And you making comments like that, your weakness is paint. I think that's the perfect answer to that question. I think you're my perfect audience. Although I know that a watercolorist doesn't own any dirty blue paint, which really need to change, I think. we need to find a solution for that. So just a mist. There we go. See you later, Gifel. Thanks for joining. Teddy, good morning. Let's take everything off the palette knife as well. Try to fully incorporate the dried paint on my palette knife. Rick, good evening. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Okay, so now it's kind of shiny enough. A little bit on the dry side still. This is literally, this is the best I can do. Okay, so this is, can't do anything more than this. Let's get rid of that one. This is, since I can now show you again, this is this amount of paint. Let me just go to the, and if I look at the consistency of the paint, it is not the same consistency as the paint that I had. I can let this dry a little bit and make a dot out of this. So I'm going to make a dot out of this, and I'm going to compare it next time when it's dry to see what this paint looks like compared to the other one, and how it works compared to the freshly made paint. But as you can see, this is literally, I couldn't get more off of this, apart from making it, you know, using more water, making it wetter. And if I would do that, I would definitely be separating the pigment from the binder. So I'm not going to do that here. This is, like, if this is dried, if this has dried, it shrinks down a bit. I really don't know if it's worth it. This much extra time for, I think, half a dot of paint. So how can you, you know, making paint, how can you fix, let me put this, not fix it. How can you minimize the amount of waste material that you have? That's with everything. If I use the 3-roll mill as well, I'm not wanting to make tiny batches with that, since the waste on the 3-roll mill is just, it's way bigger than I have on my slab. So I just can't scrape it off the mills, everything that's left on there. As good as I use it, as well as I use it, everything that's left on there is going to be waste. So yeah. The way to minimize this, making bigger batches or multiple batches of the same color, you know, I can make YInMn on this slab perfectly using this slab. Again, to make the same YInMn blue, the same pigment, to make another batch of YInMn. That way I'm kind of reusing everything that's on my slab, and I would be left with the same waste material after my second batch of paint. So I've saved like one batch of waste material thing. So yeah, Teddy, that's what we're talking about. Hey, what's color said, just you know, can you just spray mist whatever is left on this is dry already, and put that in a pan. I've tried that before, especially with this exact pigment. What happens with this pigment, since it's quite heavy, and it happens with other pigments as well, it separates from the binder as soon as I put it in a pan. Even the tiny layers, you get a layer of dried pigment underneath there and a shiny layer of dried binder on top of that, which is not what you want. It's not a dispersed paint anymore. You can use it, that's what I said after that, you can use this perfectly to make, to use as paint. Like literally, this is good paint. This is usable, a very expensive paint. For me, it's waste material. I don't paint anymore, and I'm not looking at it like that as well. I'm not looking at it, oh, such a waste, I can't paint with this anymore. This is just part of my job. It would take too long for me to use all the pigment that's left on the slab, and it looks like way more than it is, trust me. It looks way more than it is. It's quite an opaque pigment, so you see it looks more already. It looks bluer than it actually is. Well, it's as blue as it looks, but hopefully you get what I'm trying to say here. I think I'm going to take this song out of the playlist. Why is she going to talk at the end of the song? Can I just do this? Probably can, right? So, yeah, as I said, Giefel was just here a few minutes ago. And same question there. If I was making paint next to an artist who is using watercolors and using the exact paints that as I'm making at that time, this could have been used on paper directly. I did try, and I did that with YInMn, by the way, collecting this paint water that I have. Right now I can scrape it more off my slab, and even then it leaves quite a bit of blue on the slab. Like, again, it looks like it's more than it is. I put it in a little glass jar and I shook it every time I wanted to use it, and it was just meh. It felt like it lost some of its color. I don't know. That would not be possible, but it did feel like it. It didn't feel as satisfying as using just a pan of YInMn paint, loading your brush with pigment. It wasn't that experience. It wasn't watercolor. It felt like pigmented wastewater, which it is. Shaking it up and trying to mix everything again into whatever this would be on a brush, it wasn't the same. And that's really, I think, because I'm dispersing my pigment into my binder here, making paint, basically, what that is. And I felt that the dispersion was kind of gone. It wasn't dispersed anymore. It was just how do you call that? It wasn't a suspension anymore of the binder and the pigment particles. So yeah, it's like I said, part of my job. And all these factors are taken into account when it comes to pricing. It's not that I charged extra for this per se, but in the basic pricing of making paint, you need to keep into account that you're not, if you for instance buy 100 grams of pigment, you know, you're going to make paint for yourself and you're going to buy 100 grams of pigment. It's not going to be, you're not going to see that 100 grams of pigment directly in your pans again. How much the percentages that you'll actually lose differs from pigment to pigment. Some pigments come clean off the slab. Some pigments like this, as you can see, it takes a little bit longer to take them off. But then again, that's a pro for this pigment. When you buy it as a paint, a little goes a long way. Can't say that of the pigment, since I'm using as much pigment as I possibly can in my pans. So I'm not using a little to make more paint out of it. Which did surprise me with this pigment, by the way, with YInMn. Yeah, it's gone now. There you go. Which did surprise me, since a phthalo blue, for instance, has the same thing. A little goes a long way. It's a very staining, very fine pigment, very staining pigment. And with this one, quite a heavy pigment, granulating, opaque. It's like the complete opposite, apart from the color, the complete opposite of phthalo blue. But with this, a little goes a long way. You don't need a lot of the paint from your pen to load your brush up with pigment. It is a lot easier, although, you know, it lingers for quite a long time. It is a lot easier to clean than a phthalo blue. It's not scared of water. There's just a lot of visible pigment particles left. That looks like a good amount of pigment, isn't it? Doesn't it? You already have the little agglomerations of pigment happening. I'm not quite sure if I will be able to show it to you. You see them right there. You see the little agglomerations of pigment trying to look for each other there. Plop. That's a lot better too, more clear to see right now. So yeah, sad music with a sad moment for YInMn Blue, being swiped away from my slab. And there it goes. So that was that. I'm going to make a cup of coffee, and I'm going to think what I'm going to make next. Since there's quite a lot of things I need to, you know, with orders still coming in. Egyptian pellet, I had a few. I have some that are drying. This last kind of layer is drying, but let me continue. That's good. It's good as well. The little dot pellets for the Egyptian pellet. Let me first make a cup of coffee, wash my hands, and then let's make that is dry enough. The malachite still needs a little bit of drying. I think it needs an extra day. Feeling it. This is definitely dry enough. Okay, I'm going to think about which pigment I'm going to make. Maybe it's just going to be yellow ochre. Maybe I'm going to make red ochre, since that brown ochre, red ochre needs a... I think I'm going to do red ochre. Coffee first. Rick. That is, that's quite an interesting idea. Still, for me, I think in general, for people making paint and not having it as a business, I think that would be worth looking into. For me, still, it feels like a little bit too much work. I'm not quite sure if that's going to be worth it for, you know, its end purposes. So yeah. But I do agree with you that, I don't know, adding clay or maybe just using what I did before, what didn't work as paint, could still be done for coloring clay, or you know, you can still use it as paint, obviously. If you, what I just wiped off the slab with that cloth, if you collect that, put it into a jar, you can use that as a coloring agent, or a colorant, as you named it. For when it comes to mica, for instance, and you have kids, and you don't have a lot of pigment, and you don't want to waste what's on your slab, because micas kind of act like the same. Looks like there's quite still some on your slab. Well, it's not that, you know, paint-wise, it's not a lot at all. But you can collect that in, like, I don't know, a little bit of water in a jar and use it for making slime or things like that, which is always a success. I also like doing it, but yeah, so it's a good idea. For me, it wouldn't be worth it to do it with every paint. And when it comes to the really expensive ones, the like I said, the look and feel of the paint isn't going to be the same. So would you use YInMn for coloring clay? Would it be like you can just use a tiny bit of ultramarine blue, for instance, which is way cheaper, and you get way more color out of that in basically anything. When you want to use it as a colorant, that is. When it comes to the most expensive pigment that I have, the lapis, the Fra Angelico blue, there's a reason why I'm not making a lot of that at a time, since I want to waste as little as possible. Usually, last few times I made that, if you have seen my video about making Fra Angelico blue as a paint and a pigment, the last few times I made it was on a smaller slab, which is made out of marble. Where is it? Oh, it's over there. Which isn't rough at all. I'm not mulling my pigment anymore after I made it. I'm mulling it during the production process, so to speak. So I have full control over the fineness of the entire batch of pigment that I make. Mulling it more, you'll lose color with lapis. With a lot of minerals, the finer they are, the more color you'll lose, or the less vibrant, less saturated the pigment is. So I'm mulling it during the production process of the pigment itself. So I don't need a muller, I don't need a slab that has a sanded surface or a rough surface like this to make paint. I just need to mix it in my binder. And that, you know, that could be done with a muller, a tiny one. And you don't use pressure on it, but you just use it to mix things around. But that's, you know, using your palette knife for it. And doing that is going to work just fine. You'll need this anyway to put your paint into, at least that's my process, put your paint into the container, a pen in my case. So yeah. But I think, you know, you're onto something when it comes to people just making their own paint and for fun, so to speak. Then again, I don't think they would make a few teaspoons or tablespoons even with larger batches at a time. So they make small batches anyway. And maybe if they have like, this is not a very big slab for me, but this works, you know, for my life, this works. I can keep my tools clean. I'm not working outside of the slab. I have enough room for everything, enough room for making enough paint, sometimes in multiple batches. And it's like, it's compact for me, and that works. But probably if you make your own paint and you don't make a lot of paint, and you have a smaller muller like this, which is the frosted surface is about 5-6 centimeters, you can make paint like on a quarter, 25% of the slab, and make 4 paints on the same slab and use that as a palette, maybe. So that could work for people who make their own paint that they work with. And people who do that probably do something like that already, I guess. So, if there's any other questions from people who have joined the live stream, feel free to ask them on the chat. Let me just put this in the. I do like the ID rig. I'm going to put it in the screen. About the using it as a colorant for ceramic firing, for glazes and stuff like that, you really need to look up what kind of pigments you're working on, since I know that not all of them will take heat like that. If anyone's watching this and thinks, okay, that's a good idea, check that first, please. I think I'm going to do the yellow or still I'll do the red one. Still not, I haven't figured it out yet. Well, kind of struggling with words as well today. We can have something more cheerful, right? This is the first time I'm using this app for music as well. Strictly experimental, yeah. Well, I've done experiments, you know, like that, not firing, not using it as, you know, for glazing ceramics, but collecting the pigment and trying to use it without losing too much pigment. Things like that. I've tried a lot of. I think I ran out of options when it comes to that, and like I said, it's just something I need to accept from, you know, what my job is. That it's just not going to be economical for me, time-wise as well. But I did. I think it was, not quite sure if you already joined the stream. I did fill this little dot with the pigment that was left on the slab, just by spraying some water on it. This is what I harvested from that, and to be honest, I think it's still too watery. I could have let it dry out a little bit on the slab. Yeah, not quite sure. Still, I'm going to prepare that next time, or at least when that has dried, with a regular dot of YInMn, to see if there's any noticeable difference from my side, from my experience. Just, you know, feeling how it re-wets, how it loads on the brush, and looking with you on how it looks on paper. I do have that, just noticing that here. This is, it's not one of these examples, is it? No, this is just perfectly fine paint. A tiny jar, a tiny jar of chronicrodome gold paint. I'm not quite sure anymore why it's there. That's, you know, these things happen all the time here, and I kind of need to find a solution for that. When I'm just thinking about things, or kind of playing around with the materials, or figuring out new ways, or during this live streams, happens all the time as well. When I want to share something or get a question, I'm just showing something to the chat, and that I'm left with dots or swatches or things I forget to write down what they are. Yeah, so those are areas that could still use some improvement. I'm going to make red ochre. Red ochre it is. And I've lost a dot of black, I notice. So in this palette, in this dot palette here, you see a little black line of paint. This black, this is going to fall out as well. I can just lift this out of it. You can fix this a very easy way by just dropping a drop of fresh paint underneath it. Or what you can do if this happens at home and it doesn't influence the paint at all, I'm just using a very, very tiny bit. It looks like a lot, but if I just spread this out over the bottom, which it will when I use pressure, but just sticking it on there. You've used too much if it squeezes out of here. Yeah, so if that doesn't happen, I'm going to use a even tinier bit just on the bottom of this one, just as a little drop of glue. Still, Rick, I think that's more than some people have. So it's good to have the experience, I guess. So red earth it is. Where shall I put these? I can just put them back in the drawer. Put them back in the drawer for now. How much do I want to make? Not too much. This is quite a small spoon. Let's have a look. I have 3 pallets, but I got an order. That is for that one yesterday. You know what? Let's make that half measuring spoon more. And look for some pens. PR102, where are you? There you are. I'm going to check if they're all well. PR, where are you now? PR101. PR102, but that's finished. Nope. Sometimes I forget if there's anything that needs to kind of be topped off. Oh, I can use this one for that. This one. This is PR102 Natural Red Earth. So I can probably change that somewhere. There you go. PR102. Now it's on the screen as well. This is Red Earth for my Egyptian palette. In that I'm using carbon black, red earth, brown earth, also a PR102, a brown ochre, yellow ochre, malachite, and lapis, a lesser version of lapis. It's not a very bright blue version. Why am I not using Egyptian blue for that? Which would be a more scientifically correct, I think, pigment for using in the Egyptian palette. Then it would have been a lot more expensive for me to make, to be very honest. Plus, my palette, was inspired by the original one, and I kind of the kind of malachite I'm using, the yellow ochre, the red ochre, the brown ochre, the black, it's all kind of curated that they for me are well balanced to be used nowadays. Egyptian blue would have been perfect for it as well, but then again it would have been too expensive, I think. And they did use lapis, only not, they did use lapis in decorations as a pigment, not so much. This is going to be quite a noisy pigment to mull. It's a red ochre, a natural red ochre. So coming from YInMn. What's this? This is okay, it's not too bad. But it's definitely a natural pigment when you listen to it. As you can see, not really a hard pigment to get wetted into your binder, and not really a hard pigment to mull as well. We need to get all the grittiness out of it. So we'll end up with a beautiful, intense red ochre. Quickly check something. Yeah, it's quite an intense red ochre. So it's not something, again, you need a lot of to get that nice red color on the paper. I can swatch it later, but I can show it to you here as well. I should be able to show it to you here as well. Let's see if I did put the Egyptian palette swatches in here. Yeah, I do have the brown ochre, by the way. So this is the PR 102 brown version. Let me have a look if I can find the red version now. Yeah, this is it. There it is. So this is a swatch of the paint. These are two of the paints that are in the Egyptian palette, the brown ochre and the red ochre. Quite an intense orangey red and a good brown. I don't know how to put that. It's not too red leaning, not too yellow. Just a good brown. Nothing fancy going on there as well. Thanks, Becky Chen. Appreciate it. Well, I did want, you know, that's why I said the balance I tried looking for in the palette. You can always make it a little bit more orangey by, you know, still keeping it natural by adding a little bit of yellow ochre to it, or make it a little bit darker, either very aggressively with the black or the brown. Going for a little bit of a neutral, but then again you need to be very careful if you mix this red with malachite. Not that, you know, it won't explode or anything, but this red will definitely overpower the tinting strength of the malachite. Gulshan, welcome. I want to make a very lame joke right now and ask if Becky Chan and Gulshan are family. If you are related because of your name, but that's just going to be very lame if I ask that, so I won't ask it. There you go. Sorry about that. That's what happens when my coffee hasn't kicked in yet. Or when my first streams of coffee have just worn out. The fresh coffee hasn't kicked in yet. Oh, I think I figured that out. I think this is almost finished, by the way. going to use 2 hands. I'm going to use a lot of downward pressure on the slab because it's also very sticky paint, so it's very hard to get us even, you know, I'm using the big heavy muller, it's quite hard to get as close to the glass as possible with the slab, since the paint is quite sticky and thick. Then again, we do hear some, let me skip this song. We do hear some grittiness still. A very, just holding it against the light, a very opaque pigment. And Rick is going to top it off. I was afraid, actually, Rick, you were going to ask if they were family or related to Chin Chan, which would have been even worse, I think. So let's see how this goes. Using this one. I am that old, Gulchen. Thanks for just, you know, rubbing that in. That needs more work. Just a bit. It's not a lot of pieces that are, as you can see, there's some grains, of course, pigments over there, some extra be added over there, some extra adding over there, a lot of here. So this definitely needs more work. To be honest, I think I've used a little bit, I'm working with a little bit too much pigment for this muller as well. You'd love to see a video of comparing this or another red pigment compared to vermilion. I did show that in a live once. I'm quite sure about that. And I'm not too sure about where my vermilion swatches are. Since it's not something I sell, it's not in my, like the swatch collection that I have for paints that I use in my regular line of paint. But we can definitely do that. Or I can just look for the vermilion swatches and another time, by the way, not now. And compare them for you. I'm just going to continue with this one, but it needs just a little bit more work. I think this would have been enough as well. I mean, literally, I can, if I do this, I can literally see the lines, especially against the light, with the reflection of the light. I can see lines of some gritty particles. Well, you only get mercury poisoning if you're a brush licker when it comes to paint. If you're a paint maker, it's a different story. You don't want to breathe that in as well. Although Gulchen, about the old reference, I do appreciate that you know what I was talking about. I wasn't that old either. I mean, I was young enough to not get a lot of the jokes, but also old enough to know that it wasn't something I needed to turn on when my grandparents were visiting. So, yeah. Oh, absolutely. I saw a fragment of it on TikTok a while back, and I because of that, I looked it up online. I actually watched half an episode, maybe. I couldn't bear watching an entire one. It was just a bit too much for me, I think. It's, yeah. I wouldn't allow my kids to watch it nowadays. I wouldn't want, you know, the school to be calling about something that they did because they saw it on that show. That would be awful if that happens to you as a parent. I think I would. I don't know. I don't have any experience with that, but I never want that to happen as well. You have an old mercury sulfide pastel from the 1940s. How did you acquire that? Was that something that was used by family, or did you buy it later, or a collector's item maybe? I know it's 90s. I mean, in our country it was aired on Telekids. And that was kind of the same period as Dragon Ball aired for the first time here, which I did watch quite a lot. No, that was a little bit later even, maybe. I don't know. Or maybe the same period, I don't know. We can look it up. I'm not sure if it's worth looking up or looking into. Oh, yeah, I can imagine. Oh. That is awesome. Well, not the war part, but it's, you know, the history part is. Something happened with my palette knife just now here. It kind of bended the wrong way around. I don't know why it did that, but it's showing some weird streaks of paint, like vibrational patterns here. Let me have a look if I can still get it there. Should be able to do this again. You can see it here. Like that, vibrational pattern. There's no clean streaks. Maybe you need to change the palette knife here. Oh yeah, oh yeah, that could be very right. I actually think Dragon Ball was back then. That was after Pokemon, wasn't it? After the first Pokemon, at least. Yeah, that's a bit after your time again, Rick. That is way better. I mean, still, it still has some grittiness in it, but we need to remember that is a natural pigment, and I don't want to make it as smooth as a Pyrrole Red, for instance. So I'm going to swatch it. To see what it looks like on paper. Since we want to have the right balance between having a paint still feel natural. Oh yeah, Lumicolor art number 1319. Welcome. Hi, Gulchen. The original Dragon Ball. That was, but that's, you know, the humor there and the things that was that. Don't think that wasn't even allowed on Dutch television. It's not wet enough, my brush. But paint wise, texture wise for the paint. There we go. That's beautiful. Yeah. Who, Becky Chen? That's a very delicate question you're asking. Why is that a delicate question, you may ask? Well, I know there's one account online that talks about pigments and paints that has mentioned London Purple as a pigment, as a paint even. Gulchen, thank you very much. We've talked about this before on this channel. London Purple is a dye. It's never been used as a paint. It's toxic. Absolutely. I actually do believe I have some of the dye. At least a very old small can, which isn't labeled, which I bought because I saw it online. When I was looking for the first time for Paris Green. I haven't checked it. I saw London Purple, and it said like it's used as a colorant and things like that. So, you know, I was able to buy something toxic that was used as a colorant, but later found out that it's never been used as a paint. When I looked a little bit more into arsenic pigments, and then the question came up a lot more often when a certain content creator made videos about toxic pigments and pigment history in general. But I want to just debunk that, and a Google channel already did. It's never been used as a paint. It's not a pigment. It is a dye. No artist has ever used it in recorded history, at least, as something that they put on their brush and transferred over to a carrier. I think that's the most scientific way I could put that. So now I don't have the pigment London Purple, and I'm not even sure I have the dye because I haven't checked it. It's in a box full of things I haven't checked that might not be even worth taking the risk for at all. And after that I did find the Paris green in multiple forms. If you want to know about that, check out my previous stream, which is recorded. I tell you all about how I found my the best version of Paris green I have. I'm not going to repeat that story, by the way. It took about 45 minutes. Okay, did I just make a terrible mistake here? No, I didn't. I've read and watched Tintin or Kuifje quite a lot. But Becky, why did you ask? Just wondering. All days, welcome. Well, that's okay. I need to keep an eye on the time though. Oh, by keeping an eye on the time, I spilled some paint, but I will chip that off when it's dry. Let's have a look. I think this. I made a mistake in my dot palette, I see. With at least 3 of them. The yellow ochre isn't where it should be. I don't know what is going on, old Chen. I mean, I made YInMn before this paint. Now making red ochre. But, you know, thinking about just using a powder to, you know, make your face white. I think they could have used ash or bone ash, for instance, is quite white. Lead, especially in the Victorian age, lead is just a weird choice to put in your face, especially because it was known, at least to an extent of it. Let me check. This is PB. No, I don't want PB. I want PR. There we go. Almost grabbed for the wrong pens over there. Exactly, chalk, and yeah, exactly. Even marble dust or anything like that, which is, I think, chemically, isn't that the same as calcium carbonate? Those are things I need to look up before I start talking about that. This is going to be my last paint, by the way, since I need to grab something for lunch, and then I need to pick up my kids from school again. It sounds lovely to put that on your face. At least it was natural. I mean, no offense to current day makeup, but concealers and foundations and all the layers that some people plaster on in heavy layers. Again, no offense, but it sounds kind of judgy when I say it like that. But sometimes there are loads of people, I think the majority of people, who use that in a very natural looking way. But there are also people that don't use it in a very natural looking way. And I sometimes wonder when I see some extreme cases of that on the street. Sometimes I wonder if we look back at that as the same as we did you know, as we do right now. Maybe we found out that some things are, or turned out to be very bad for you long term. Yeah, but vermilion as lipstick, I don't know if it happened quite often back then still, but that's been used for a long time in makeup. It is a beautiful red color. I mean, and you know, it comes out of nature. So I get the idea how someone started that. It's a natural product. I am in doubt what to do with this small amount of paint that I am left with. I don't have a lot of PR 102 pans anymore, so I'll just turn on my printer when I leave. I'm not going to throw this away, but also, you know, the alternative of throwing paint away, you know, cleaning it up, is putting it in a jar or in a small syringe and keeping it for later. But this is not enough paint to really put it in a jar. Syringe would be possible, but then again, it's not enough paint to top everything off later on. So I'm just going to a little bit too much in that pan. Now it seems a bit more fair. I'm going to clean this up later. Making sure there's not a lot of pigment underneath my muller still, since that's impossible to get off this muller when there's dry paint underneath it, trust me. Everyone, thanks for joining. Hope you enjoyed the stream, or at least the parts that you joined. I'm going to be live again tomorrow from the evening at 9 in the evening. It's on my the homepage of my channel here on YouTube. When the time is in the banner, it says the time. And then it's going to be a longer one, which is a little bit more interactive. Well, I did do my best today. So music part is new. This camera, I used it last time, but I still again have access to my phone as a camera, which is new and it's working. So I'm very happy with that. And everything is working perfectly like that. Well, I just locked my phone, so we lost the camera feed there. So yeah, let me know if what you thought of the music in the background, which is copyright free or copyright one. You know what I mean. So I'm going to save this as a replay, as I do with my usual live streams, and hopefully it doesn't get flagged or anything because of the music, since I'm paying for a subscription that I can use for music underneath my videos that I post, but for my live streams as well. So hopefully, I need to make a playlist, by the way. Hopefully everything works and keeps working like that. Houses in New Zealand used to commonly have a fiberboard fiber cement of the lower door panel houses. Now we call that material asbestos. Well, oh yeah, I know about that. The Becky Chan, what you say, they used asbestos for the snow part in the Wizard of Oz. That's I know, I've heard that, and it's terrible. I also heard that it really, everyone was coughing and had like really serious issues during the shooting of the original film. And Rick, unfortunately, there's loads of asbestos in the older houses here as well, especially the first part of the roofing, or sheds, or even fences of older houses are still built with that stuff. So yeah, it's as long as it doesn't kind of break and there's a lot of powder, it's kind of harmless. But if it's dry and brittle, you need to be careful with that stuff. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to be live again tomorrow evening, and hopefully see you then. If I don't see you then, thanks for joining. Please give it a like if you haven't already. If you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, and all the things that belong to that sentence. Hopefully see you soon. Have a great day, guys. Thanks for joining.